All right. Is being recorded. Okay. Good evening. How is everybody tonight? Hope everybody's well. Okay, let me share my screen. You want to welcome everybody to our first official meeting of the 2022 lacrosse season. Very excited to get started. As I'm getting everything up and ready, I did want to share a couple things. Today we were kind of able, well, not kind of, we did launch our foray into providing some officials for box lacrosse. So I'd shared with everybody in some emails that the idea of box lacrosse has been growing rapidly in the nation, particularly in this area. It's always been very big, in more northern areas, Canada, northern New York, Michigan, those kind of places. But it's filtering down here, and a lot of the youth clubs and rec areas are offering box lacrosse to supplant their program to help improve their athletes. And one such place is Chase Fieldhouse. So they are in the process of creating a whole separate kind of box division with leagues and tournaments and things like that. So they held a very small play day today. So a few of us were able to go over there, and with a quick tutorial from JP, and having attended the box lacrosse clinic webinars that US Lacrosse has been putting on, we were able to officiate some box lacrosse games. Bryn called JP afterwards and reported he was very happy with how our officials did, and the different clubs and groups, were happy with our efforts. So that's a good thing. Looking forward with that as it grows, and we're targeting for probably in the fall, bringing in a trainer who played and officiated at very high levels and has worked with US Lacrosse to actually do formal box lacrosse training and put together a cadre of officials who can officiate at all levels for that. There is a large adult tournament later this month at Chase Fieldhouse. We're not assigning that at this point because we don't really have the qualified officials to do it. It's pretty heavy duty club adult tournament. Honestly, at least as far as I know, it's over all of our heads to do that tournament. So we want to get to that point where we could definitely service them with that. But, for now we're building that. So that's very exciting. So you'll hear more about that, but any opportunity you have to learn about box lacrosse or officiating box lacrosse, go up to the Spectrum or whatever it's called and watch the wings and learn about the game. It's a very fast, a little bit more physical game, but there's definitely an art to it. And it's definitely not, what a lot of people think, which is, just disorganized mayhem. So with that, I am going to move on. So our agenda for tonight is just to go through some of our basic beginning of the year stuff that we talk about. I need to go over some reminders, and then we will have probably around 6:20, 6:30. I hope Gordon Corsetti join us, and he has a great presentation on the mental side of officiating. So with that, Dean.
Right, current balance $5,371.49. We're up a little bit higher than our usual, but we have 2022 dues of 800 hours were paid so far, and we also have about 1,400 hours sitting in the doc fund. So we're up like 2,200 hours Our expenses were down a little bit last year. We didn't have the banquet as usual. We just did the Schaefer's over there. Also, I issued all the 1099s. This was the biggest year yet. I put out 56 of them, and that was like $150,000. And that was, we paid out over 15 leagues and tournaments and game fees. So I guess kudos to JP and Greg for getting us involved with those, and Mike Hernandez, he did some assigning as well. So that was brought a lot of money in and a lot of money out. So other than that, that's all I have right now. I did look into the way Kubak sends out his 1099s, and it would probably be double what we're paying. We're paying just a little over $1. And when I looked at the websites that he used and some other ones, they were over $2 a piece. So it would double it. So I'm not sure if we want to switch to something like that. I know it is a little bit more confidential the way it comes. But I'm open, for discussion there or whatever you guys want to do there. So since we're not meeting in person, it's not like I can hand them out at the meetings, which was done in the past. Then I would have a handful to mail. So.
All right, Dean, thank you.
Mhm.
And JP with our assigners report.
Yeah, all right, everybody. I am probably on April 18th as far as assignments. That's varsity and JV. I've left some of the middle school open, mainly for what's going on with the applicant class and to try and get them some experience on the field this year. But I can tell that some of us have not been into the arbiter since June. I think there was one in there since last February. That's a very active member. I don't know if they're here or not today. I haven't looked, but you have to get your blocks in. Turnbacks are one thing. I understand that life gets in the way, work gets in the way, emergencies get in the way. But what's going to make my job harder is I'm going to get all the way through the season and I'm going to click publish, and then I'm going to get 50 to 60 turnbacks because you didn't put your blocks in, and that's going to create even more work for me. If you have, a son, a daughter that is in the play, that's in the band, that plays lacrosse or plays soccer, you should know their schedule by now. Go ahead and block those days out. I have no problem with you blocking those days out. That's fine. I understand that. If you have shift work and you are planned out for you get your shift 2-3 weeks in advance, I completely understand that. But as soon as you get that, go ahead and put those blocks in. If you're on shift work and you figured, oh, well, I'm not going to put my blocks in right now, and you didn't let me know, you need to let me know. I'm hoping to push out the rest of the schedule by Wednesday. That means I'll have it all assigned, at least varsity and JV. I want to click publish on Thursday morning. You have 7 days to accept or decline your games. If you don't accept or decline the game, so if you leave it on notified for those 7 days, you open it the first day that I publish it, and then you've got 7 days to accept it, and the 7th day it still says notified. Arbiter will automatically take that game from you and create a block for you. So I need you to accept your games as soon as possible. I know Greg sent something out about scrimmages. That's a little bit my fault, and I understand if you can't work, but your availability should be effective as of March 1st. I am assigning scrimmages this year. You do get compensated for the scrimmage. There's right now 2 huge play days at Appoquinimink and Cape Henlopen on March 12th. I think there's another one March 5th at Appoquinimink. Those have all been assigned, and there are still some games that say notified. You have to accept your games, ladies and gentlemen. Any other scrimmage, if a coach calls you, a friend calls you and asks you to work, do not work that scrimmage unless I assigned it to you. We worked, Greg and his committee, his DIOC committee, I think it's DIOC. has worked very hard to make sure we get compensated, and that goes against getting compensated if you go do something for free. Other than that, like I said, I'm hoping to press it out, publish the schedule on Thursday. I can't promise that. At the latest, next Monday, I will have it all completed, and click publish. 7 days. Get your blocks in. Kids' sports schedules, work schedules, travel, vacation, husband, wife, partner, make sure their birthdays are in there, anniversaries, if you're not going to work, but you got to help me out. That's all I got, Greg.
All right, thank you, JP. Just to reiterate on that is just real quick. One person chat on the side and said they're having a hard time hearing me. Is anybody having a hard time hearing me? Am I loud and clear? Thank you, Brett Townsend. He spoke about the requirements in our contract that comes through a group called the DIOC. If a school, a booster club, a parent, a coach reaches out to you separately to try to get you to work anything that is part of that member school's program, whether it be a scrimmage, a practice, anything like that, either for no money or for more money or for whatever it might be, they are violating the contract. Okay. And that by contract, they can only use the assigning authority of a accepted association of officials. So by coming through you, they're violating the contract. And I would just very nicely remind them of that. I'm not expecting you to rat schools out and get in trouble. I do have a hunch that on the 12th, some of these schools that don't read emails and don't follow directions, probably about the 9th, they're going to be scrambling to find officials for play days and scrimmages where they're bringing in schools from other states and areas, and they're going to be desperate, and they'll reach out to friends. Don't do it. That's the best I can tell you. Work the scrimmages that JP is assigning. Those scrimmages are the approved scrimmages. You'll also be working with, your future partners. They're all set up to be two-person mechanics so that everybody gets the best experience possible. The other thing too, real quick, before we move to Mike, with assigning that JP did not mention, and we'll talk more about it at a later meeting, but there are tournaments, youth tournaments and stuff starting, at the DE Turf and at Kirkwood and at some other places. Remember, as a member of the DLOA, you're expected to use one of our approved assigners, and I'll post those in a list. Most of you who do that kind of work know who they are. It's Paul Kubak, Bob Manfuso, Jim Powers, John Sheehan. JP, is there anybody else?
Right now, that's it. I'll think who else we need to add.
Yeah, but so if you've worked, most of you who do that may have worked for one of those assigners. So if they contact you directly, they're fine. If somebody who's not on that list contacts you to work games, you need to ask them to contact JP. And I would also contact JP myself. That way we can reach out to that assigner. And it's not to take assignments away from anybody, but and not to start stuff. There you go, Chris. I'm being good with that assigner. But it's to help get everybody in our association, the first priority on work that's in our state. So that's why we want to do that and make sure we develop good relationships with those assigners and those tournaments. All right, Mike Wilbur, do you have anything? And then tell people how to get involved in mentorship if they're interested.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Or can you hear me, Greg?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to welcome all the new referees we have this year. The mentor program is been developed for our newer, brand new or 1 year officials to have an experienced official to talk to, work with a few times. And it's also open to anyone else with 3, 4, 5 years that wants to have a mentor to run things past. Anyone who is brand new or first year, Greg will get me your names and I will assign you a mentor. Anyone with 3 years or above. If you want to have a mentor, check my email address, send me an email requesting to have a mentor. One important thing is to make sure your address is in the arbiter. I'd like to assign someone who is in your zone and you're able to work with that person a couple of times a year on the field. That way you get a little bit better feedback with actual on-field production. So we're looking forward to a new season and getting people running up, getting people online. If there are any questions, you got my email address, send it over to me. Thank you, Greg.
Very good. Thanks, Mike. And I'll post Mike's email address and some information in my next communication through Arbiter. Mike Hernandez, quick on youth lacrosse.
He is not here. He had a situation he had to deal with.
Okay. I'll give you a quick one just on youth lacrosse. There is limited youth lacrosse right now because many of the leagues and teams that are played have folded or aren't playing, or if they are, they're using the U.S. lacrosse rules, and they aren't using officials at the younger age levels, which is where we really did a lot with training our new officials. So there are a few opportunities for youth officiating. If you're interested, contact Mike Hernandez, and I'll put his email in my next communication too, in case you haven't talked to him. But there will be limited possibilities. All right, just real this stuff here. I'm gonna fly over. If you have questions, put your hand up and I'll answer your question. Most of this is all repeat stuff, or it's been covered in emails that I've sent out. So meetings and trainings. We put together a really good training program. We really expect you to come to all meetings and training sessions. And you are required to come to 3. I do post the links for the meetings prior, several days prior on our calendar. The meeting dates are already on the calendar. And then I'll send out an email, a few days before with the link. That seemed to work today. We have a very good attendance. Okay, the meetings will be recorded. We do understand that some people, Sundays may be a problem. So at least the online meetings we record, and we will have kind of a test out option. Probably I'll ask Fu to do it, and when he'll come up with all the stupid things I say and the offensive things that I may inadvertently say in a meeting, and you'll have to find those by listening to the meeting to pass that test. We are going to do 3 field trainings this year. They're pretty much mandatory. We're going to cover a lot of stuff, and it's a great opportunity to be on the field working as a group, and that really builds our consistency. DLOA membership, required to pay dues. Most of you paid dues at the end of this season. If you are a new member transferring in, Dean will reach out to you to collect your dues. These are the DLOA dues. They're separate from NFHS fees and the stuff that you'll pay in Dragonfly. These are the dues that we charge to be a member of our group to cover the expenses of the group, training, things like that. New members. And I'm going to go over some of those guys in a minute, but if you're a new member, You do not have to pay dues the first year. We decided that last year that new applicants don't have to pay dues. They'll pay their dues for the following year at the end of the season. We talked about meeting and training attendance. You have to meet all the DIAA requirements, which means take the annual NFHS test on Dragonfly. And if you take that with another association for those results, and we can get you credit, you don't have to take the test twice. For some of you, it might help, but you're not required. The concussion course every 2 years. Ignore everything about Mike Hernandez and FHS Learn and emailing the certificate. I'll take that out of the PowerPoint that I copied. That's out now, all handled in Dragonfly. And apparently now you can, it's much easier once you finish the course, you can just push a button to have your certificate or your credit forwarded right to Dragonfly to get credit. And then you're also required to be US Lacrosse certified. And we will be observing and evaluating officials. I'll talk about that at another meeting a little bit, but we will have that program again. US Lacrosse certification. You have to be a member in US Lacrosse with officials standing. And you just send me your number, your US Lacrosse number. And then these are the other things that are required to maintain your certification. We've basically set it up that once you become certified, if you attend our meetings and attend our training and take one of the USL tests, you stay certified pretty easily. The one bullet point here about the annual US Lacrosse test. So they do now offer an NCAA or an NFHS test. We've gone over this before. When you take the test on US Lacrosse, I would recommend you take the NCAA test because that helps you be ready for most of the summer club stuff we have going around here. You've already taken a federation test through Dragonfly as a requirement at DIAA, and the tests are very similar. All right, observations. So we do use US Lacrosse certified observers. And then we're trying to get to each official once every 3 years. I am going to use the COVID excuse, even though I hate it, as to why we've fallen behind. But hopefully we're going to pick that up this year. And I've spoken with one of our more seasoned officials who may not be able to get on the field as much as they want this year. And that official is probably going to take over that program. I'll have more for that at the next meeting. Also, you can request additional observations. So if you want to be observed in a game, you know, if it's not your year or you don't know when you're going to be observed and you're looking to move up, increase your level with US Lacrosse, maybe potentially be considered for DLOA, just to be a better official, you know, to do a good job, you can request those. For right now, just email me. And then at times the assigner may request of the board to have certain people observed. That could be somebody that we're trying to figure out if they're ready for playoffs or a higher level of the playoffs. It could unfortunately be because, you know, in the coaches' game reports, we've gotten significant negative feedback, and we want to go out and try to really help that official. It's not a gotcha. It's to help the official who may be struggling or may need to have some corrections made to really represent us very well. And then we do always observe the quarters, semis, and finals of the DIAA state tournament. All right, social media policy. It is listed on our website, and it's just common sense. You know, don't go in there and make any comments about games, plays, players, coaches, schools, fans, etc. It only gets you in trouble. It only gets us in trouble. Social media is nice for certain things, and it's nasty for other things. And, you know, comments about officiating tend to fall into the negative spectrum sometimes. So even if you come across a post that maybe makes a comment about our group's officiating, don't get sucked in. You know, if it's bad enough, let me know about it and we'll figure out how to handle it. You know, you can participate and you make the call discussions as long as you're not making personal attacks and things like that. If you do, basically with the policy, you know, as an official of the DLOA, if you do violate the policy for somebody that we you know, is a client of the DLOA or somebody, a school in the state or something like that, it is possible that the board would have to take action. Contract updates, just very quickly. And I'm the head of the DIOC. We're currently in negotiations. And if you guys want to stay afterwards, I'll explain why. That's air quotes. Only in the great state of Delaware do we not have the privilege to necessarily negotiate our contract. So we're trying to get significant raises for officials. We haven't gotten raises in a few years. Our fees do lag behind neighboring states, and quite frankly, places around the country. So we're working hard to get our fees up with the rest of the country, get people fairly compensated, and also some help recruiting and retaining officials. You know, fees is a big part of it. Yes. Yes, you can bring me a plate, but I'm online right now. Uniform requirements. I do put Kevin Hawkins' name here. I will send his email out in my next email. He's the official DIAA referee supplier. I guess he's at the virtual clinics. I don't know, but it would be hard to do business at a virtual clinic. But I'll get you his name and number if you're interested in purchasing stuff. Our policies haven't changed. When we come to games, we're dressed the same. The referee has the final say in what we wear with some input from the partners. And we do require that you have the American flag on your uniform. On our website is a uniform checklist for you to follow. For the applicants who are in the meeting, this is something I will discuss with you before you go out and buy a lot of uniforms, and make sure everybody understands. If you have questions about uniforms, let me know. Couple notes, some stuff based on last year. Couple comments. If you're wearing long pants, they're all black. They're not the football pants with a stripe down the side. They're not the nice new black pants that say Under Armour, Nike, you know, down the leg or in the back of the leg or across the butt or anything like that. They're long black pants. They can be, you know, like golf or athletic slacks, or they can be, you know, like a pair of wind pants or athletic, you know, nice athletic pants, not just black sweatpants. Okay. That's long pants. Short pants are all black. Some places call them 4-pocket shorts. They're golf or tennis style shorts with belt loops. All right. No gym shorts, no cargo shorts. Okay. You should be able to pick these up at Kohl's. Well, at one point they were $15. I won't comment on why they're probably more right now. But you know, you can get decent shorts for a good price. If any of your uniform stuff is worn out, so if you have to keep your fly closed with a safety pin, if you have rips, holes, tears, bad odors, anything like that, please upgrade your uniforms. We will at some point have a store. We're working on that. But we don't sell the pants or anything like that, but upgrade your uniforms. Okay. Hats are the same, black with white piping. Start the year with a fresh hat. I don't think we'll have dock hats this year. Maybe next year. So if you need to buy a new hat, buy a hat. Anything under your uniform should be black. Your shoes, this is another bone of contention sometimes, should be all black and leather or leather-like. That has gotten a little less, you know, a very good pair of athletic or running shoes, as long as they're all black, is acceptable. And then socks are all black and they come above the ankle. So they're not the no show 'em socks and they're not crew socks. You know, they come a little bit up your ankle and that's what you should wear. Here are the uniform combinations you're allowed to have. Okay. And everybody has to have the same combination. Short pants with a short sleeve striped shirt, short pants with a long sleeve striped shirt, long pants with a long sleeve striped shirt. Everybody has to look the same. Okay. For the quiz, the one not approved combination are long pants and a short sleeve shirt. If you like that combination, Foot Locker is hiring. The other thing that is not acceptable is a short sleeve shirt with a long t-shirt underneath it. Okay, so everybody should have two shirts, and I'm going to talk about that now. As I said in the email earlier, in 2023, we're going to move to 2-inch stripes. We're not going to move to 2-inch stripes this year. We're going to move to them next year. But don't buy new 1-inch stripes this year. In my next email, I'm going to send out a form if you have extra uniforms to give us your size, give us, long sleeve, short sleeve of uniforms you don't need any longer this year of the 1-inch stripe variety. And we can kind of work those, especially among our newer members, so they don't have to buy twice. Next year, we move to the 2-inch stripes. We're going to work out a significant discount as part of our association gift so that we don't create too great of an expense. But we're doing this because many of the other areas are moving to these 2-inch stripes. We're not really ahead of the curve, but we're not behind yet. But I don't want to get behind, and I don't think we should be spending a lot of money refreshing our 1-inch stripes for maybe in a couple of years. It's going to be very hard. Summer uniform. I spoke the other day. We are going to move to the gray shirt as our summer uniform. And you can blame me. I jumped the gun on the nice white shirt with the black gussets and all that. Everybody else around us is using gray shirts. It makes it very difficult because we're sharing a lot of different assigners and groups to know when to have the right uniform. So we're going to move to the gray shirt. Your first gray shirt will be the association gift for this year. And I'll have information in another week or so about how to get your free gray shirt and also maybe how to order some more. Game day requirements. The first thing here, we've changed just a little bit. So 48 hours before a game, the referee on the crew. Okay, and this should only be the referee. We don't want 3 officials for every game making this contact with the schools. You're going to email the host school, which would be the AD and the head coach. Okay, verify the time, location, number of games. Varsity, JV, whatever it would be. Provide a contact number. So you're going to give your number for them to call for any last minute changes or anything like that. You're on camera, by the way. JP is right there. He's the little kid. Oh no, that's his little kid. And the thing we're going to change, there he is, Mr. Firefighter, hose man. The change is, and this is kind of for our safety, we would like you to ask should come from the AD, who would be the site coordinator that day and what is their phone number. We've tried to work out things so that with lacrosse, like football and basketball, there's somebody, an AD, an athletic administrator present at the games to help us deal with the types of issues we have sometimes, particularly fans. They don't really have the budget to do that for lacrosse games, but we still need that help. Usually somebody should be on site, which means they should be on on the property. We just need to know how to get a hold of them. That way, if we have an unruly fan, we need to get somebody removed, we have to hold up the game because of an issue, we know who to get a hold of, and we're not always having to rely on a head coach or somebody like that to get that person over there for us. Usually that's not a problem, but occasionally it can be problematic because of the nature of that confrontation. So I'm going to send out a template email for everybody to use, but we're going to want those three things. And then the day before the game, you're simply going to contact the crew. This should come from the bottom up. So the umpire, the field judge on the crew is going to verify the time, location, number of games to everybody in the crew. Everybody provides a contact number. Make sure you provide a cell phone number that you're going to have with you. And if you're still carrying a flip phone, make sure people understand that they can't send group texts, so that the communication is smooth and good. Confirm the uniform and meeting place. And just remember that if there's a dispute about the uniform, the referee and the crew is the one who has the final call on what you're going to wear. And then finally, everybody needs to confirm those emails, and then the referee may start the pregame as part of that email or text conversation. Everybody got it? All right. Real
You're
quick.
good, Terry. Terry, we got you.
Oh, hi, Terry. Okay, so these are just our requirements the day of a game. We need you. We need you the best you absolutely can be in the parking lot 30 minutes before the starting time of the game. That way you have a chance to make sure you're dressed, you're ready to go, make any last minute decisions about weather or something like that, and have a good thorough pregame before you walk on the field together. 20 minutes prior to the start time, we have all these meetings, and we're going to go over these in one of our field trainings, what these meetings all look like. And then after the game, don't just, run off the field, wave goodbye, and get in your car and go. Spend a few minutes at least in the parking lot debriefing. If you're up near Sally's or Tower Hill, we now go to, what is it, the Santa Fe or one of those places, and enjoy that. I'm sure down south you all have places. This is where we really get to know each other. But that post-game debrief is just as important as the pregame, because any issues, any questions, any problems you have, you get answered and take care of while they're fresh in your mind. You also can discuss any big incidents you had, so that when the referee completes the game report, everything is noted and communicated back to the assigner and to the board. And then incident reportings. So we'll talk about this more in another meeting because it's changed a little bit. The most important thing you need to know: you have a fight, you have an ejection, you have a big hit, you have a big problem. As you're leaving the parking lot, you should have JP on speed dial. At least let him know something could be coming. We want JP to hear from you before he hears from the coach. That way he knows what's going on. If the coach gives him a call, he doesn't have to hold the coach off for very long, and we can handle those types of things. Okay. And are there any questions about what I just went through? I think I got it done about 15 minutes quicker than ever before. But those are the necessary things. So somewhere on your little screen of pictures and names is Gordon Corsetti. And we've invited Gordon to come speak to us tonight. I'm going to tell you a couple stories about Gordon. I might tick him off and he might leave. Gordon moved to Baltimore, about 8 years ago, 9 years ago?
Right around that.
Yeah, and he joined the SLOA. And I learned a tremendous amount from Gordon. So before I poke fun at him, know that the real deal is I learned a lot from him, and you all learned a hell of a lot from Gordon Corsetti and his efforts when he worked from US Lacrosse. And a lot of what we do are still adapted from the PowerPoints and the training materials that Gordon created. But I remember Gordon joining us and getting up in a meeting of the SLOA, another organization that I'm a member of. And the first thing, he introduced himself, who he was, and all that. And then I noticed I had a pregame scrimmage at the Matha with him. And I'm thinking, okay, pregame scrimmage, we're all going to get in the parking lot 15 minutes before. We'll get dressed real quick. We'll walk on the field. We'll do our thing. Well, the email comes from Gordon. Hey, guys, be in the parking lot about an hour before the game. And I don't know Gordon that well. And also, I'm a little intimidated because he is now working for US Lacrosse. And, I don't know what that can do to my career or anything like that. So I'm like, all right, whatever, I'll go over. So I'm over there an hour before, and Gordon pulls out a binder and he flips it all around backwards, and he's got his whole PowerPoint of a pregame. Boom, 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 boom. And at first I was like, oh my God, this guy. But, you learned a lot about that, about being very thorough with your pregames. And another big thing I learned from Gordon, and Gordon and I, we did a state championship game in Maryland. It was actually a very good one, which often in Maryland, they're not that good because of the way they seed and do their tournament. But we had a very good game, and Gordon, for our pregame for that one, had each of us, gave us each assignments for part of the pregame, and that was something new I learned, and so that was great. Gordon has moved on from US Lacrosse. He does a variety of different things. He's someday that guy for the liquor, the most interesting man alive. I think Gordon is working on being him. So someday, he'll be very famous and on commercials. And have all, I can't imitate him, but and one thing Gordon has done that's been awesome is take some, I think, his personal journey and helps people deal with the mental and emotional sides of life. Here we're going to talk about officiating. I know he's worked with teams and coaches and all kinds of different people, just helping them to be the best person they can be and come through life. So we're going to have the Zen and the Art of Officiating. So I will turn off my microphone. And, oh, wait, I got to give Gordon sharing privileges.
Mhm.
I'm going to make you the host. So just make sure you allow me to be the host at the end.
You got it. Actually,
So you should be good.
let's go with okay, hold on. Now I'm doing this.
Oh, change host.
Oh, there we go. All right, hold on. Where's my Zoom side of things? There it is. Share. Yep. And we will do my thing. All right. And we'll go jump to this guy and say play. All right. So we got a brief history of officiating, and y'all can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Sweet. Well, thank you for that intro there, Greg. I've sent from the probably the first time we actually met at DeMath and did some games to that state championship a couple years later. I think I also got a little bit less anal about how I go through a pregame, and this is a little bit as to why. So to everybody who's joining the call this evening, thank you very much for your time. My goal here is to talk to you about Zen and the Art of Officiating. It's a presentation that I tailor to groups around the country to give them at first a brief history of officiating, but also some ways in which you can deal with the inner critic in your own head, which also has a lot of benefit for dealing with the external critics that we're already very familiar with. All right, so I'm going to start you all off with a brief history of officiating, and this is really just kind of like a fun encapsulation of how it's always been terrible to be an official forever. It's never been a pleasant job. So this is one of our presidents, believe it or not, saying on the campaign trail about his growing up in small town America, saying, I couldn't see well enough when I was a boy, so they gave me a special job. They made me the umpire. We're like, this is a United States president, the commander in chief of our armed forces, and he's getting an easy rib on officials, and everyone laughs, ha-has. Because yeah, we're an easy target, and we're always constantly being told how blind we are, how much we can't see things. But I do think it's a little indicative of culturally how we respect the arbiters of different games, where we're considered fair game even for the most powerful person on the planet. So that was probably like, I don't know, the 40s, early 50s. Let's go back a little bit further. About 1870s, the very, very first football game ever played. This was before the forward pass was invented, okay, before field goals were a thing. Rutgers played Princeton, and Rutgers won 6-4. It was a tight battle. Remember, this is the very first football game ever played on American soil. According to the Princeton Gazette, the coach ran the officiating crew off the field, screaming at the referee that that was the worst officiating that he had ever seen. How that's possible, considering this was the first game ever officiated, is still astonishing to me. I don't understand how that works, but it does show that expectation that we are expected to be perfect and then improve from there. So if they couldn't get it right or right enough in the very first game, I highly doubt we're even going to see it right or right enough in the Super Bowl next weekend. This is just what it's been like to be an official. We're always expected to be perfect, fairly or unfairly. And we got to be able to deal with that, our own critiques and the external critiques. But the one that this is my favorite officiating history lesson here, is we think about how far back our sporting events goes. I want to take you all several thousand years into the past and introduce you to the Roman gladiator Diodorus. And over his tomb, carved in granite, is the following: after breaking my opponent Demetrius, I did not kill him immediately. Fate and the cunning treachery of the Summa Rudis killed me. Now, I was raised on Spartacus and Gladiator movie and stuff like that, but what they don't show you in those movies, because it's not fun, is there used to be referees for gladiatorial combat. The Summa Rudi held a long reed. Reed was Rudy Reed on that one. So he could step it between two combatants if something wasn't fair. If somebody tripped over something and it wasn't like actually their fault, he would allow them to stand up and they would engage again. Kind of very similar to what we've got in like the UFC or boxing or other combat sports. But what I find fascinating about this is that the implication here, this gladiator Diodorus felt that he had won and broke his opponent Demetrius, but he was too slow on killing him, and the referee interferes. And the rest of the story is that Demetrius gets up, grievously wounds Diodorus, and while he's like getting tended to by the medici, he tells his patrons what to put on his tombstone, because he's pretty sure he's going to die, and he wanted the entire rest of human history to know that his loss wasn't his fault and to blame the referee instead. So this is the fact that this is like carved above this guy's tomb to me as just a living testimony of the fact that we have always, always, always scapegoated the ref. And this is just the facts of putting on stripes and arbitrating any competition, whether it's several thousand years ago in the Colosseum to going out and doing a scrimmage in a couple of days, right? This is the deal. Fortunately, ours isn't life and death anymore, so we at least got that going for us. But that's a fun just kind of intro into what we're going to do here. I'm going to briefly take you all through what the stress response is, how we operate under stress when we're going into something, whether or not we know it's going to be stressful. Then we're going to dive into what I call mental agility tools, some preparatory tools that you can use before a game to calm yourself down and make it more likely that you're going to think more clearly. And then also some tools that in the moment, if something crazy happens and you've got to immediately reset, some ways in which to do that. But I think those tools are most effective when you understand the system, that stress response, a little bit more accurately. And then lastly is one of my favorite crossover lessons is conflict de-escalation through verbal judo. I'll be pairing a lacrosse lesson with some key points from the book Verbal Judo, which I'll be showing you guys toward the end of this talk. But if you guys do have questions as we go through here, type them in. I'm going to give you guys my email address. So if you guys have other questions on that, you can reach me anytime. So here we go. All right. So the stress response, what actually happens to our bodies and to our brains when we get stressed out? Here's the thing I need you guys to keep in mind. We only have one stress response. One. The body didn't evolve multiple stress responses for different types of predator. It did not evolve different types of stress responses for different life situations. We have one that gets used for every type of stressor in our life, be that coaches, players, our own expectations, fans in the game, emails, work obligations, spousal arguments, fights with kids. It does not matter. We have one stress response. Now, this is a problem Because as far as our body is concerned, every time that we are stressed, the body, the mind thinks it's a life or death situation, whether we logically know that it isn't. But the idea here is that when you get that ding email from work at 5:30 on a Friday before you're about to get up onto the field, and you know it's not going to be a good one, you're spiking adrenaline into your system, and you're getting ready to fight this tiger, this imaginary tiger, or run away and flee from the tiger. That's that fight or flight response. So the thing to keep in mind with this is that every stressor is coming into your brain and it's being interpreted as a life or death situation. And we've got to have ways in which we can bring that response down significantly. So I'm curious, I'll add the question here in a second, but this is what happens. This is the effects on this one. The adrenal glands start pumping out a whole bunch of norepinephrine and cortisol. And what this does is it helps you breathe deeper, but more in the chest, right? Rapid breathing so you can quickly power your extremities to run away. Your heart rate goes through the roof. Your blood pressure goes to the roof. Your digestion goes down because evolutionarily speaking, you don't have to spend time digesting your food if you think you're about to die in the next 90 seconds, right? So this is why you have that pre-game nausea feeling when you're going into a game, when those butterflies are swirling around. That's your nervous system trying to expel waste, and why you're all like crunched up in this one. So always a good idea, pre-game poo. But the high blood pressure, the increased heart rate, very constricted pupils, all these things designed to get you to run away or fight for 90 seconds of terror. But this also looks very familiar as well. And I do this with players and athletes of all these physical responses are the exact same things that we have at the end of the fourth quarter in any game anywhere, right? So this is whether your brain is telling your body it's time to be stressed, or your brain interpreting signals from your body that you're about to be stressed toward the end of a lacrosse game, the effect is the same. As far as your internal mind is concerned, a tiger is about to pounce on you and have you for dinner. So we have to be able to deal with that stress and bring that on down. So I'm curious if you guys can type in right now while I get a quick sip of water, is what tigers come up for you on the field? What are the major stressors that you all have, or if you've never officiated, that you're concerned about? Go ahead and type those in. I'm going to get a quick drink. Yep. Coaches, parents, coaches, or anyone yelling at you. Knowing that you missed something, an internal one. Yeah, did I miss a call? And then having that spiral, and now you're missing more calls, and it snowballs and it's even worse, right? So these are the tigers that come in. What they do is they distract us. That's going to be an important thing to circle and keep in mind when you get onto there. Let's see. Jafu, you got a question? How are we doing that?
Accident.
Oh, all good. So we have these tigers. The question is, what can we do about them? Because what are we really trying to do? We're trying to remain calm and grounded and centered amidst chaos and insanity, control that area a little bit, and be able to calm ourselves down and make better decisions. And I agree with you, Pete, on simultaneous fouls. I got some resources for you, that might calm you down on that one, because it's complicated, but it's doable. But the idea here is the mental agility tools I'm going to give you in this middle part of this talk is taking you from this stressed out, you're being chased by a 600-pound tiger, to you're on a beach in a tropical paradise with your feet up, enjoying the sun and your favorite alcoholic or non-alcoholic beverage, right? The idea mentally is to take you from tiger attack to you're on the beach with a cocktail. That is the goal. So we can do some things preventatively leading into a stressful situation that's going to lower our threshold or increase our threshold before we get like too amped up. But we can also do several things in the moment that will bring us back to that beach on a cocktail mentality. Because when you're laying back and you're on vacation, ideally, you're not, it's the exact opposite of stress. That's where you can make your better long-term plans. That's where your vision is wider. You take in more colors. You can digest your food because you have the luxury of time. It's just a lot more calming. And I used to referee like I was getting chased by a tiger. Now I like to think I referee like I'm on the beach and I'm just much more chill. But that took a lot of work. So let's see how we can do this. So these are tools for officials. Should you like to actually pull that up? Tools/sports officials. You can go to my website there. And these are, I only picked out a couple of them, but there are several other tools on here, but these are the ones I wanted to talk to you guys about, especially knowing Greg and the DLOA in particular, having gotten to work with you guys back when I was living a little closer to Delaware. The first thing is know thyself, right? And as challenging as this may be, and I know assigners don't want to hear it, they also know the reality of life. Block your freaking schedule, right? No more than 3 days in a row. Just have a rule in that just for yourself, and it can be association wide. That's great. But the thing to keep in mind here is after a little while, we all run out of gas, whether that not physically maybe, but mentally you got to have a day just to chill, right? Go fish or do whatever the heck you want to go do. But don't make it a lacrosse day on that front. Now, if you got to pick up a game because your assigner's in a bind, I've done that plenty. I get it. It's what you got to do. But for the most part, I keep my schedule blocked enough where I'm not doing 3 straight games in a row, especially if they're doubleheader days, right? But the other thing to keep in mind is that you can block teams and or officials in Arbiter. This is something that I don't think a lot of officials don't really know, in that, so I block a team that my dad coaches in high school because that's a little bit of a conflict of interest. It doesn't really look good when he and I are on the field together and it's a high school competition. But I've blocked one other team that I have a coach that we do not gel. It does not work. And why I need that friction when there's 130 other teams in the state, I don't, right? So recognize that. Now, if you're blocking, they have a max limit of like 5 teams, right? So if you're blocking 5 teams, you might want to start reflecting on yourself as if, am I the problem here? And the same thing goes with blocking officials. There are 2 officials that I have in mind that, again, I just do not work well with. We've had some problems on the field that's carried over off the field. And my job as an official, as a professional in this arena, is to be able to leave all that off to the side when I step onto the field. And that's just not possible with these individual teams and these particular officials. So that is one of the things, again, if you're using all the blocks for as many officials as possible, you got to look back like, am I really the problem here? But these are things preventatively, you can at least set a schedule and set a season for assignments that is overall healthier for you. And moderation is the goal here, right? I used to do every game 7 days a week and double headers 3 days in a row. I could do that physically. I can probably still do that now, but is that really the best thing for you? And is that really the best thing for the game? Because I don't think if we honestly all look in the mirror and say we're doing 3 double headers in a row and then picking up games on the 4th day, we're really not that sharp for that game compared to where we were earlier. Just looking at that honestly. The next bit is taking advantage of pause points, what I call pause points in games, to do breath work. So the interesting thing here is that we talked a little bit about how, the mind's going to influence the body, but there's a lot of feedback of body going to mind. And the easiest one that we carry around all the time is how we inhale and how we exhale. So this is known as circle breathing, also known as box breathing, a couple different terms. But the idea here is that wherever you're at, if you get your posture right and shoulders back and down, proud chest, but you're inhaling into your belly. So if you put your hand on your belly and you feel it extend out and come in when you're exhaling, you want your belly button to move whenever you're doing this. Now, I take advantage of this, and I've done breath work in traffic. I've done breath work before talking in front of people. I've done it walking through casinos in Vegas because it was all too much of sensory stimulation when I had to do a talk out that way. This helps ground me into the present moment. So what I will do is, like I had a scrimmage on Thursday. They had the national anthem. That is 2.5 minutes where no one is going to bother you. So take advantage of that. Intentionally bring down your physiological response to this incoming stressor of officiating a lacrosse game. Have your hand over your heart and do some circle breathing. It's a 4-count inhale. Hold full for 4, and then a longer exhale. And then you hold empty for 4, and you repeat that. Now, you don't have to be hard and fast with those counts. Sometimes I do 7 and 5. Sometimes I do 10 and 8. Other times I'm kind of out of breath and I can only manage 3 and 1. So you do what you can, but the idea here is that you're always exhaling longer than you're inhaling for. Those breath holds, what they wind up doing is showing you that you can control something in this moment. And the biggest thing about stress generally is the feeling of uncertainty and a lack of control. So you might be completely out of control in the game that you're in and nothing is going right, but at least you can remind yourself that you can at least control your breath. So this is a helpful thing to really bring down that stress bit. And I do this in the car right before my pregame. I do it after we get coaches certifications if I got time. Definitely do it at the national anthem. And then I usually do this at timeouts and quarter breaks, right? You can do this pretty easily while you're doing stick checks and stuff. So use those pause points to pull in breath work. And I got a whole host of different options on my website, but you can Google plenty. This is an incredibly effective technique to calm yourself down on and off the field. Let's see here. So a little bit on positive psychology. So I'm pretty familiar on this one. So we have a problem with, as officials, focusing on the negative. That's kind of our job, right? We want to focus on the things that are going wrong so we can penalize, adjudicate them, and prevent them from happening again. But then that gets us into our mindset of don't make a mistake. The DFU, don't F up, don't screw up, right? I don't want to miss this, okay? What that does unintentionally is it puts your brain into a tunnel vision type of setting where all you can see is yourself making that mistake. And you're not open wider to the possibilities of getting things correct. The most common example I can do with this is, have you ever been told, by your spouse to go to the store and, oh, by the way, don't forget the milk. What do we forget when we come back to the house? The milk. Because we're so focused on not that we already put in a mental block and now we're screwed. So I picked this up from Mike Leiner, and it's not all black and white. It was an SEC championship official, did all the big time games, and he changed his officiating philosophy in the red zone to not like, I hope the play doesn't come near me, to I want that player running at me. I want the big play. I'm ready to make it. I can adapt. And I changed that into my officiating bit. If I've got a timeout before an end of a fourth quarter big play in a tie game, I'm telling myself, I want that ball. I want that thing coming at me. I'm going to make the correct call or the correct no call. I'm ready to go. And what that does is it starts spurring you on to do all those things that the trainers with the DLOA have prepped you to do, to improve your positioning if you need to. You don't get locked into place because you're worried about making a mistake. You're actively engaged in trying to do something better because you've framed it in a more positive setting. So highly recommend changing that inner talk that you have to yourself, and steal these 3 and then come up with your own. But anytime I'm by the crease and I know a player's going to goal, I'm like, I want him to come to my side of the goal. I'm gonna be ready to make the right call. And ghosting, easily one of my favorite techniques for dealing with coaches, right? This is the one I deal with coaches, but this isn't in the moment. This is prep work. So what you guys should do, I highly encourage you this week, is to make a list, physically write these things down of everything that distracts you, that pisses you off enough that you're no longer thinking. We're back to that distraction thing, because what are we here to do? As officials, we are paid to pay attention. So if we're distracted, even for a split second, we're no longer officiating. We're no longer doing the thing that we are paid to do. So distraction for me is like, if I can have somebody yell at me, blue, 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 whatever, or you suck, or you're blind, that just, no, that's not a thing. But if somebody in Georgia calls me Lou, who happens to be my dad, and my name is Gordon, and I am much better looking than my father, even wearing stripes, that upsets me, and I get distracted. And when I'm distracted, I'm not refereeing. And then that is my option then to act. That is when I enact the ramp right there, whatever that may be, whatever step of it we're on for whatever game I'm in. But the idea here is you write down all the things that you know are likely to piss you off or already do. And then you write down the things that you can hear that don't really bug you. You missed a call. Okay, fine, whatever. But you're imagining those, I call them the green arrow words, flowing through you. You don't have to do anything with those, right? Those don't affect you. You're transparent to those things. But a red arrow is something that distracts you, and that's going to hit. And when you feel that hit and you realize you've been distracted, now you have to act. Now you have to do something. That might be that warning, that might be that conduct foul, that might be that flag, and so forth. But the idea here is to be aware of what will distract you, and then have a commitment to yourself and your team, your crewmates, that you're going to act when that actually does happen. Because what that's going to do is it's going to show the coaches that you actually have this is setting the threshold, right? This is actually what this is, but not in the moment. You've done some prep work for this because you know yourself and you know what you're getting into. So you're able to deal with those comments in a better, clearer headed fashion. So that's ghosting. Learn that from 101 tips to be a better bouncer. So I figured that drunk, angry people are about the same as angry people trying to win a game. And then lastly, some social communication. Be able to vent. One of the talks I did up at convention, and I've done it around the country, is dealing with failure. And I talk about some of the worst mistakes I've made, but the end result of that is that I always had somebody to talk to. Now, I don't know like who in this association, yeah, your mentor, if you've got one assigned to you, is great. One of your peers on that front. If you don't, you got me, right? I'm happy to be a sounding board. I like hearing weird stuff from around the country. But the idea here is you cannot hold on to this stuff, whether it's a mistake that's actually there or a perceived mistake that's just gnawing at you. You have got to have somebody to offload this to who is in the lacrosse officiating world. Like, this is great to have a supportive spouse or partner, but you have to have somebody that kind of knows this world to be able to go through these. So you can just kind of offload all of that and then be like, hey, okay, cool. And be ready to get on to the next thing. This is something that I think wasn't necessarily always the case when I started officiating about 16, 17 years ago, but has become more and more, certainly as technology has improved, for our ability to connect with guys, whether that's through screens or on conference calls or whatever. But the ability to just reach out to the people you know who are going to be in your corner, whether you screwed up or not. And I've had guys tell me, yeah, you screwed up. And sometimes you just need to be able to hear that, but at least you're hearing it from a trusted source, not some random fan or not some coach that's more pissed off about this thing than he actually needs to be. Yeah. So these are some of the books that I've pulled from. One of them is my own self book that's up on Amazon, just Kindle download available. It's not all black and white, great read. And then As They See Them, A Fan's Travels in the Lands of Umpires. If you think you've got it bad as an official, I don't know how the major league guys do it. Granted, that six-figure paycheck I'm sure helps, but those guys, that and what they experience in the minor leagues is astonishing. But there were also some great game management tips I picked up from that book as well, because this is about a guy, a New York journalist, became a minor league baseball umpire to learn what it was all about. So it's just a great starting point to learn some new ways to go about stuff from a different sport. But now we've got some verbal judo. This will be the last piece of this, and we'll go through any questions you got, and I'll give you my contact info again, and we'll rock and roll. So verbal judo comes from George R. Thompson. His nickname was Rhino. He was a detective out in Arizona and Utah, and he passed away several years ago from esophageal cancer. But before he passed, his big thing was teaching verbal conflict de-escalation techniques that were more likely to gain compliance without violence, without coercion. His goal in all of his interactions with the public is compliance without coercion. Okay, to get people to willingly do the thing that you're asking them to do. Now, some of that doesn't really apply to the officiating world because we're not in a life or death situation or having to restrain folks generally. But the idea is there's some of these things that could be applied. And I've got a few things that tie in nicely with some officiating things as well. So the first one here is develop allies. This is my good buddy, Chris. He's talking with a player. The idea here is be calm, be positive, be professional, be the role model of an official that you wish you had in that sporting bit. The same way as like somebody always has a great teacher that they remember, like kept them involved and wanting to learn. We can be the same thing in officiating as well, and let them know that we're all not bad people out to get them, right? But the idea here from verbal judo, the quote is, if your antagonist can upset you, he owns you at some level. So the idea here is not to get upset or to even show that you're upset, but it's to use that as motivation, as fuel to be even more professional than that guy has ever have a hope of being. Because if they can get a rise out of you, as unfair as it is, we can't yell back. We lose the moral high ground of that argument because all of a sudden now we're the angry official. So we can't do that. But what can we do? Be the model for quality interactions. Use the pregame, chat with the captains, talk to them, get to know them, ask them how the season's been going and what's going on. If you know the kid by name, call him by name, right? One of the things, my favorite things to do is in developing allies is being proactive in getting to know players, especially goalies and especially captains. Because I have more than once been able to just go up to the goalie that I've talked to through the course of the season and be like, hey, I need you to rein in number 11. I'm about to have to throw a flag on him and I really, really would rather not do it. He'd go, you got it, Mr. Corsetti. And he'd go off and take care of that. And now I don't have to be coming in super authoritative with a flag or telling this kid, you better watch it. Now it comes through his trusted teammate. So have the intention to develop allies. Because the more you can do that, the more people you can rely on to deal with pissed off coaches or upset players or whatever. It's not just you and the crew. Next quote. What separates professionalism from amateur behavior is giving our opponent no solid grounds to make a stand against us with our comments or our actions. Right. Coach chat. We never turn away. Right? If this is the field of play, I do not turn away from the play because what am I doing? I'm paid to pay attention. And as soon as I do this, I'm not doing that. And as soon as I've done this, I've been distracted by that coach. That's another great sign that you've been distracted. You've got to whip your head around. So it's back up to the coach. Keep a fairly neutral expression on you. Face the field. Right? This is you as a trail official. And if you can, if it's appropriate, smile. Now, I'm not doing that if a player's injured or anything like that, like read the room. But I've had some decent conversation with coaches in a heated game because he's trying. I'm just like, Coach, I hear you on that one, but my partner is right there. So you can question his call all you want, but you can't question that he's right there. I'm going to find out for you what he saw. Okay, cool. And then I jog away. But the idea here is that, yeah, we might be writing game reports for things, but always remember that there's going to be a second side to that story. And if it comes out that, yeah, you might have ejected this coach, but you also called him and his mother and his wife a whole bunch of different names in this bit, or you turned around to yell at the coach and his star player just got his ACL busted from a spear that went into his knee, you're going to have difficulty selling that game report. It's not going to go over as well, right? So keep the professionalism up high. Keep your focus on the game. And if you can't get to the coach right away, be honest with him. Coach, can't talk to you right now. I got to go. I'll be back. And then always circle back. Always. I don't care how furious that coach may be. You've made a promise to circle back. Go ahead and do that. And I have jogged back over to a coach after the other team called timeout and he's pissed because he thinks he's got the ball or we wiped a goal or something. And I jog right over to him. Right? Like it's important to me because it is. And I have seen his anger go from here to every 5-10 yards I'm jogging over. He's like, oh, he's really coming over here. He actually wants to talk to me. And just that little bit of effort on my end brings that coach down to a much more manageable level for me one-on-one. Coach communication. Here then is the most powerful sentence that will allow you to interrupt anyone without fear of bodily harm. Let me be sure I heard what you just said, or other variations of that. Coach, I want to make sure I got that right. Can you say that one more time? So the idea here is there's going to be some information conveyed. And sometimes the very first way a coach asks a question or even makes a statement in the questioning is usually not the best, clearest example. Like I generally have a good idea of what the coach is angry about, but the way they first get it out of their mouth, it's a little confusing. So take advantage of this fact. Always ask for some clarification. This does two things. One, if I'm standing here and I go, coach, okay, I got you, coach. I hear you. I want to understand. Can you just explain that to me a little bit more slowly? Because I want to make sure I've got what you're trying to tell me. And he's going to say it again. That gives him the opportunity to rephrase whatever it is he's got a problem with, because he might realize he didn't communicate it all that well. The second thing it does is it allows you time to think through the possible responses or what's going on. What just happened that could be pissing this coach off so much? And he now gets that chance to reformulate whatever he needs to say to you. And you have had time to digest what actually is going on. And I have used this time and time and time again. And I finally, I've been teaching this phrase for a while, and I had an official come up to me last year. He said, Gordon, I used this with the coach, and it was like it was PFM. It was pure friggin' magic. Like the coach stopped, thought about it for a second, asked his question more clearly, and I was able to explain it to him, and we didn't get into a shouting match. Because what this does initially is not, you're trying to answer the coach, but if you just lead with an answer, they don't think you actually heard them, right? They didn't think you actually listened, which is what they care to do. So allow them to get it out. Oh, okay, coach, good. I just want to make sure I heard what you said. Could you say that one more time for me, please? They say it. Got it, coach. Well, here's what my thing was. I get you on a flag there. From my perspective, the player was really bobbling the ball. You're not going to get the man up, but you are going to get the ball on this one. So it's going to be top left. We need anything else? Okay, cool. See ya. Right. So this is the thing. It gives you time and space in which to operate. So you're not constantly having to go head to head with that coach. It just smooths out the communication process so much better. And then the last bit here. So this is the last part about verbal judo. This is a model for conversation. And I want you guys to internalize this because this is very important. This is what happens in every conversation you will ever have with a coach, with a player, with a fan, with somebody you're arguing with, whatever. In any professional capacity you're in, this is what happens. Whether you agree with this or not, this is reality. Okay, so here's what happens. You're the star of the show in the conversation. You're that middle star. Every single time you open your mouth to communicate information to a coach, in this case, who's in that square box, he's surrounded by FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Every single time you open your mouth, you draw a line that represents the Delaware Lacrosse Officials Association. And then you wind up communicating your information to the coach. You're surrounding his fear, his uncertainty, his doubt. Like, who is this official? Does he really know what he's talking about? He didn't really see the play. I know more than him, all those kind of things, right? This is what happens. You represent your organization, and then you try to get the coach information. You represent, you try to get the coach information. And this happens time and time and time again. And what starts happening here, two very interesting things. Number one, you've already seen, this is the overarching thing, is that this is an infinity symbol. This process never ends. There's not a goal line to get across where you've won communication, right? This is every game, every instance of communication from now until the end of time. But what I find fascinating about this is that the star in the middle starts to disappear, right? We always like to think about being green and being invisible, but I want to flip that on the head when it comes to communication. I want you to realize when something is going south and to know that you have the professionalism and the knowledge and the know-how to step into the fire, put the spotlight on you with that coach or that penalty situation or whatever, and address that situation in a calm and professional manner. If you start doing this enough times, it's no longer Greg Bolger who's the only good communicator. It's no longer Gordon Corsetti. It's no longer JP Bennett. It's the association. Because with enough time, if everybody buys into this model and this manner of behavior and de-escalation, what starts being is the individual official running that starts becoming less and less important. And what winds up happening is that patch with the DLOA on it, when a coach sees that, he might not recognize you as an official, because you might be the first time you've ever had a team, but he recognizes that patch. And every conversation he's had with every other DLOA official is going to go through his mind and be like, I don't know this guy, but I'm pretty sure I can deal with him based on my past interactions. So this is a pay it forward model as well. Like if you buy into this stuff, sooner or later, it's not just about like, oh, I'm so glad Greg and JP are on this game because I know they'll listen to me. Suddenly it's like, I'm so glad we have DLOA officials on this game because they'll listen and I'm not going to agree with them, but they'll listen. All right. And they'll work with me. And that part about agreement is the other interesting thing. So the DLOA, that's in a circle, right? It's a circle logo, but even if I got logos from other associations, I put it in a circle. The coach is in a square, very rigid, right? Less flow. By the time this process is done, multiple times, multiple games, multiple seasons even, you're starting to shave off some of the rough edges for that coach. You're starting to make that hard square, that rigid square, a little bit more like a circle, a little bit more like the perspective of the officials in the DLOA. You're cutting through that uncertainty, that fear. You're massaging that doubt away each time you converse. And the idea here is that we're making that square a little bit more circular. We're not going to get completely circular. We're not. We can't make them. We're not going to get them to like think we're always correct. That'd be a little boring if they did think that anyway. But the idea here is that we're showing them a little bit more of our perspective. When I can go up to a coach and I can just be like, Coach, I hear you. I hear you. It's a tough call in this moment. From what I saw and what my partner saw when we both flagged it, is that player's hands were this far away and it started high and it ended high. I don't like those flags any more than you do, but I still have to maintain player safety on that one. We're going to call it the exact same way you got on the other side. He's going to be pissed off. But what you're doing in that space and each communication bit is showing him a little bit of that perspective of the officials. If you're doing that in a calm, professional manner, over time, it's no longer about you, the individual ref, or even your crew. It's about, this is how DLOA officials are, and this is why we want these guys on our games. So always remember, this is the model for conversation. This is what it is. So be the star of the show and dive into that and deal with that situation. Make it a little bit better through your professionalism and your knowledge and your expertise of the game. So that's my spiel. That's the Q&A. If you guys want, you can scan a picture of that QR code. That'll take you to my link tree that has links to some of the links that I gave you already, but also some blog posts, some other things, some other resources. If you want to schedule me to talk about brain stuff and de-stressing with organizations you work for, companies that you're a part of. But I will also put on here, if you guys want, you can send me a text with your first and last name. And if you have something funky in the season or just need somebody to vent, give me a heads up. If I'm not on my way to a game or on the field or up on a pole climbing work for Storm, I'm usually pretty available. So that's what I got there. What questions do you guys have for me? And yeah. And if not, then I'll turn it back over to Greg. I'm gonna make you the host just while we're on here.
Real quick. Gordon, thank you very much. I think it was really helpful. A lot of good points. I appreciate you helping us out.
My pleasure.
Gordon, that was one of the best presentations I've ever heard of different things to think about. Thank you so much. A lot to take in. I'll watch this again, I hope.
Oh, yeah, I'm thrilled to hear that. And like I said, I want to put on a good show for you guys, but also it's like this stuff these are the things that, and the areas of life I've pulled from they help me on the field for sure. I get the repetitions for it. But like in my arguments with people off the field, my personal life and other negotiations and things, these things have helped keep me calm. And it's the lacrosse field is now my area to kind of practice with different techniques for stuff. So give these things a go, and man, let me know how they go. Let me know the weird situations, because these are the helpful things that the more and more we can talk about this stuff, the better our collective experience of officiating is, and the more likely we're going to have fun out there, and that's more likely why we're going to stick around. So that's my other kind of reason for doing this. I want guys to have a better time, and if this helps guys have a better time, cool. I think you're muted there, Greg. There you go.
Can you
Yeah, I
hear me
got you.
now? There we
Yep.
go. Just had to push the button. I thank Gordon very much for joining us. Gordon's an awesome resource for anything officiating. He was sad to see him leave from U.S. Lacrosse and providing great incredible training materials for all our officials. And I'm glad to see, Gordon, that you're stepping back in and helping out where you can there. We certainly need that. But Gordon, just listening to the tips and the ideas and the shifting your mind to handling things, the one thing I always get out of it is, instead of taking it to the adversarial relationship, just taking everything to the next step, you're just turning things around and you're getting the information out. You're not expecting a coach or a player to always agree with you, but at least you're turning the conversation into the right direction. We can keep on playing, and if there's bigger problems, we can solve those later. But, the game is definitely a process. You have your highs and your lows, and you need to be on your toes all the time. I go back and forth from that guy that wants to play the big play in front of me to, let that happen over there in front of Bennett. He can handle that. So,
Greg, thank you so much for having me here. Again, I'll be a resource to you guys as much as I can be. Feel free to reach out anytime. I'm going to go I'm now going to training. I'm going to go learn how to deal with electricity without dying. So that's my thing this week. So I got to grab all my gear and get packed up for that. But have a fantastic season, guys. Stay safe and have a fun time out there.
all right. And Gordon, real quick, on behalf, I should have one on behalf of the association. I got your address.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you one of our coins in a bag and a tape measure for you to use on the field. And then maybe that big infinity circle will get, a little bigger and everything get a little rounder for us with you carrying our stuff around down there in Georgia.
I'd be happy to. Yeah,
all right, brother, stay safe.
See y'all.
So again, thank you for Gordon. Great presentation. I think very helpful. It's always nice to start the season off with something that really helps us kind of change our mindset or fix our mindset to such a way to be ready to deal with what we have to deal with and not feel like we're going out on the field all the time into this huge, just, adversarial deal where everything's got to be a fight and a war, where we're out there as officials, managing a game, working with the coaches, working with the players to provide the best experience we can, and working through those landmines in the best ways possible. So hopefully we keep that in mind. I did record the meeting and I will get it up on our YouTube and post a link to everybody very soon. So with that, that's everything I had planned for the meeting. We have a few minutes for questions, answers, new business. If you are, one thing I did fail to mention, if you're having problems with Arbiter, with any feature of Arbiter, or with being able to get stuff done in Dragonfly, please let me know right away. I'll try to solve them for you. If not, we can jump on a call together and I can give a demo, or I can look at your screen and see what's going on and make everything work better for you all. So are there any questions, issues, new business, concerns?
Hey, Greg, did Stephanie say when the books would be available?
Let me text her. She was getting them and I think they're going to be ready this week. What's a good day for you to grab them?
Monday, Wednesday, or Thursdays?
All right. I'll hit her up right away when I get done here and see if maybe possibly you can grab them tomorrow. Rule books. So yes, we will get you rule books. We'll have those, we'll definitely have those at the first on-field training coming up. Anything else? Oh, you know what?
I do, Greg.
Okay, go ahead. And then I have one thing I don't want to forget before we leave.
I completely agree with Gordon about don't work every day of the week, even though I send them to you. if you send me a text or an email that says, JP, it's too much, I already did 4 this week, that's not a problem. I completely understand that. And when I publish the schedules, if I scheduled you 4 days in a row and that's too much, I completely understand that too. As far as blocking schools, please talk to me first. Please don't block any schools, because Gordon, you need to remember that Gordon comes from SLOA, where John Sheehan has 300 officials to choose from. I absolutely support what he said. He's 100% right. You shouldn't be working every day. You need a break. You need that time to fish, to play tennis, to sit and do nothing, to spend time so you don't get divorced. That's all true. But you start blocking schools, and then you are now, you guys do have permission. You guys can block your own schools. I'm pretty sure you can, Chris.
Yeah, once JP's done, I'll comment on that too. I got one part of that as well.
But before you do, just please check with me first. And if it's an issue with a coach, absolutely. If it's just because you don't like, the field, talk to me. Yes, you do have the option to block officials also, and that makes things tough on me. We're a very close group, guys and girl. Please reach out to me if you have a problem working with a certain official. And this has happened, and I've made sure that those officials don't work together, or if it is, it's an extreme emergency. So please, before you do any of that blocking stuff, great presentation. I'm texting Greg the whole time, telling him to tell Gordon to stop, ease up with the blocking stuff, but 100% right. Take time for yourselves, just easy with the blocking and the arbiter. That's all I got.
Yeah, let me piggyback on that real quick, because there's a little bit going on in the chat. We're like JP said, we're a smaller group, so we don't have the luxury to just willy-nilly block anywhere where we feel we have a dispute or a problem. Right now, I did check in the arbiter. Right now, we do not have the ability for you to block other officials. I don't foresee us opening that up. In the past, if you have a problem with a particular official, you have a hard time working with that official for whatever reason, your best option is, if it's bad enough, is to call JP and talk through that, and figure out what the best option is. We certainly don't want people out there working with people they can't work with or have a hard time working with, but we also want to make sure that maybe there's something we can't do just to help get through that. Because in certain areas, it's hard to say, I'm not going to work with this official or that official. We need to figure out how to all work together. As far as blocking schools, the only reason in my mind you should be blocking a school is if you have a legitimate conflict with that school. Your son is playing on the lacrosse team there. You're the head of the PTA, you have some significant relationship with that school. You're an employee of that school. You work there, something like that. And you do have the ability to block schools because of that. Okay. With very rare instances, I can imagine, you shouldn't just be blocking a school or a team because you had a dispute once before with the coach. Hopefully, if you had a dispute with the coach, we've done the reporting process, we've gone through everything, and we fixed all of that. And, we were able to send any official to any school. So again, if you're having a particular problem with a coach or a team, or there's a personal reason, I would always reach out to JP and work through that. JP's not going to send you into a bad situation, but it's very good if he knows the reasons why that's going on. So I hope that helps. But yes, Gordon, absolutely right. You do need to take time for yourself. I don't think my wife is down here now, so I can, we had a very brisk discussion a couple weeks ago when somehow I allowed myself to be assigned to a wrestling tournament that went until midnight on a Friday night, 90 minutes from my house. Started up again at 8 o'clock the next morning and went until 6:30 that evening, 90 minutes from my house. And even with the schedule I like to keep with officiating, that did not go well. So, I've had to have some tough talks with our friend Stuart Martinez, who assigns that wrestling, and kind of change my ways with that. So that's fine. You should do that. You shouldn't let yourself get totally run down and exhausted. That's not healthy for everybody. It's not healthy, at your regular job or what you do. It's not healthy for your family, so you have to set your limits and know your limits. And that's, to me, that's one of the biggest takeaways from that whole talk is, we tend to get wrapped up in the season and you turn around and you've worked, you're proud of yourself, I had games 15 days in a row, and then you realize mentally you're a mess. The world is angry at you. You're not feeling well. And then at some point you're going to make that big, bad mistake, in your game or on your job. And we certainly don't want that to happen. We want everybody to be crisp. We want consistency and all that kind of stuff. So, I really enjoy Gordon, both for this end and, he didn't speak a lot about it, but it's definitely the voice of experience for him. His officiating has been quite a journey. If you listen to some of his other talks and read his blog and know a little bit, he's a fighter and he definitely has learned a lot through his personal journey. So what he had to say tonight is very significant. With that, I did want to introduce, we have some of our new officials on the call, and I'm going to end with this. Because I told you we were going to end quickly. So this year we started an applicant class much earlier than in the past. I've consistently had 8 to 10 officials in the classes. Last night we got them on the field for the first time. And not only did they get their field mechanics and learn how to move around the field and work as a team and throw a flag and so on and so forth. We did get some real life practice on fight mechanics, thanks to the military school over there in the Newport area. Yes. So I'll get you some names, Mr. Townsend, maybe, and they can do some extra quadratic formulas or something, whatever you do. But it was a great experience. It's been a good experience. And several of them are going to join us in the spring. They're on the call. I just want to point out who they are. They can open their camera if they want, say something. They're not required to, but Spencer, Tom Pickard, and Alex Albanese are all on this call. There's Alex up in the corner.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
There's Spencer and Tom. Some of you may know Tom from the Eastern Shore, very involved in lacrosse down there. And Chris Patrone has done a number to get him to come join us. And I think all 3 of these officials are going to be great additions. And we need more. And while we were on the call, Holtzy sent me a name. If you have anybody who wants to officiate, experience, no experience, hopefully we get a little bit of lacrosse or a little bit of officiating experience. We do need officials. We're going to run a second applicant class starting soon. So please get me those names and we'll get everybody started. Is there anybody on the call that I missed who's new in the group? Because I know there's at least 2 phone numbers here.
Yeah, the phone number is Full Heart. We need to know who the iPhone is so you get credit for being at the meeting.
I think that's Mike.
Oh, Hernandez. Yeah, that makes sense.
No, the other Mike, Crampsey. I think because he spoke before.
Yeah, I'm on. That's Mike Crampsey. Yeah, sorry about that. I
Okay.
don't know how to change any of that. Thank you.
No, that's fine.
Fu,
Yeah.
make sure you write down Full Heart and Crampsey, please.
So very good. If nobody else has anything for the good of the order, I will see you at
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Mike. At our next meeting, and let me just call that up. Apparently a few people didn't get the, maybe aren't getting all the arbiter emails. It seems like we're getting some, but not all of them.
Yeah, I'm getting emails from Arbiter.
Yeah, so make sure that we're checking. Hold on one second here. Make sure that you've gone to our website and you're checking our calendar, Delaware. laxref.org. I'm just going to review this real quick because everything will be up here. And you can, of course, like I've said 100,000 times now, you can make this calendar part of yours. So when you go to our site, the calendar's right here. Green meetings are our membership meetings. So our next meeting will be in 2 weeks on the 20th. That'll be a Zoom meeting. And then after that on the 27th, and then again on the 6th, we'll have on-field trainings. The 27th is at the Chase Field House. I'm still working on the dates for the other ones. But if you didn't get an email and you know we have a meeting, you can always just open the event and the Zoom information will be in there. I usually put that in there a week or so before the meeting. So everybody should be able to be there. I do my best to remember to press record and record them and get them on our YouTube channel. Every once in a while, I forget to take my meds and I forget that, but I do my best. So with that, does anybody have anything else?
Greg, this is George. Did you say you had a fight with DMA on Sunday? On
I
Saturday?
did. I took on the whole team and all my fingers are straight. Yes.
I had a fight with them last Saturday and
Yeah.
I broke my finger.
Yep. No, they.
So that's 2 weeks in a row they had a fight?
They did. They did. It's the math department over there has got those kids' anger up. Yeah. So, and you know, Bryn's going to deal with that. He's dealing with it. And I think there's going to be you know, the league for the most part has been very good, you know, and I think unfortunately there's a few players out there who have other agendas. And there's a little bit of an issue maybe with the fact, and I talked to the DMA coach last night, those guys aren't allowed to be on the sidelines, you know, the regular coaches. So you have, I mean, I don't even think they had anybody coaching them last night. So the inmates are running the asylum at times. And, you know, so we had an issue, we took care of it. We took your lead and we ended the game very quickly. Hey, how are you? Do you have your pink dress on today? One suggestion I did make to Bryn, and I hope he takes it, is that he begins putting a camera up in the mezzanine there at the field house and just recording the games. It's very hard for us to get player numbers and things like that because sometimes the kids don't have numbers. They're not wearing a number that's registered anywhere or anything like that. So I'm suggesting that he videotape the games and that we can go and you know, go back later and review the tape and eliminate those players that are fighting. And I think he's going to set some rules for players, you know, more strict rules about fighting, and then also put some onus on the schools. And well, not the school. I'm joking with Mr. Townsend about DMA, with the teams that are playing in the league, that if they can't control their players, that maybe they just won't play. You know, maybe the team will get a week suspension or something. So all that's in the works. But don't think it's a battle. It's been a good league for the most part for a long time. It's just been a rough couple of weeks. So we're going to work through all that. And Brand in that league is very good about working with that. Anything else?
Yeah, last thing, Michichi and Harvey, stay on for a second when everybody logs off, please.
I think Harvey already left.
I'll stick around. I'm good. I'll stick around.
All right. Anybody who I'll stick around for a couple minutes. If you have anything else you need to talk to me about, just stick around then, or you can give me a call. So let me sure. Oh, Ryan did put in my direct message. The KOLA is doing their annual field training on the 27th. So of course ours would take precedent, but theirs is usually in the morning. And if you remember that group, you know, it's always a good training thing. But be it ours. All right. Everybody have a good night. Peace.
Thanks, Greg.